Last but certainly not least, the Big Ten, maybe the best conference in college football. Stay tuned in a few days for our conference rankings. These are Big Ten Power Rankings right here at the Voice of College Football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis based on your participation. There is no doubt that the worst team in the Big Ten, one of the worst teams in recent Power 5 football, Purdue, 0-11 against the FBS, just completely non-competitive, trampled week after week. Oregon 35-0, Ohio State 45-0, Indiana 66-0, Notre Dame 66-7. Just 44-14 average loss for Purdue and going 0-11 against the FBS. It's an old coach's adage to say, burn the game tape. It was just so bad. Get rid of it. Forget it. Burn the game tape for that week. You know what? Burn the game tape for the entire Purdue season. Ryan Walters, take it to the trash. You're replaced by Barry Odom. Barry Odom, it's your program for 2025. Boiler up! Maryland football was seemingly on the right track under Mike Locksley. 3 consecutive bowl wins, 23-16 in 2021, 22-23. 4-8, only one win in the Big Ten. USC's deplorable fourth quarter antics saved the Terps from the embarrassment of 0-9. Things looking up possibly for 2025 with 4-star quarterback signee Malik Washington, also an incoming transfer, Justin Martin, coming in from UCLA. He turned in a fine performance in Happy Valley this past season as Billy Edwards now goes to Wisconsin. What we said about Purdue, burn the game tape for the entire season for the Terps as well. At number 17 in the Big Ten Power Rankings right here at the Voice of College Football, the Turtles. David Braun performed miracles for Northwestern football in 2023 in winning a bowl game and going 8-5 after a 1-11 season and all the catastrophe left by Pat Fitzgerald. He could not duplicate the feat in 2024. 4-8 season for the Wildcats. Best win, Maryland by 27 points. The quarterback play was atrocious. Jack Lausch and company, 7 touchdowns, 11 picks. Enter Preston Stone for 2025. At number 16 in the Big Ten, the Cats. Welcome to the Big Ten, Jonathan Smith. You and your young quarterback, Aiden Childs, coming in from Oregon State, will have to face Ohio State and Oregon in your first 2 Big Ten games. Not a great season for Michigan State. They did pick up some traction mid-season, most notably a win against Iowa at home. 5-7 for Sparty. They will try to get back to postseason play. Jonathan Smith can coach, and Aiden Childs has a season under his belt. But for now, number 15 in the Big Ten, Sparty. UCLA legend and first-year head coach Deshaun Foster looked over his head early in the 2024 season. A win against Hawaii in unimpressive fashion, followed by 5 consecutive losses. But in that 5th loss, a nice showing at the Rose Bowl against Minnesota, in which the Gophers had to score in the final 25 seconds to win the game. UCLA was getting better and better and better and better. And sure enough, they started to rip off some wins against some teams that were considered to be better, like Rutgers, Nebraska, and Iowa. UCLA just missed a postseason performance. They lost, of course, USC by only 4 points. So that's the goal in 2025. Get to a bowl game. At number 14 in the Big Ten, the Bruins. My number 1 coaching hire 2 off seasons ago right here at the Voice of College Football, one Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. Thus far, I am wrong. Luke Fickell, disappointing. Speed and space not working. The tempo game on the offensive side not working. Phil Longo, long gone. Quarterback Tyler Van Dyke injured in the 3rd game against Alabama. His replacement, Braden Locke, 13 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 55% passing. Not nearly good enough. Wisconsin got off to a 5-2 start. They did play well against Oregon in a narrow loss at home, and also Penn State. They played those 2 top teams very close. But their best win, Rutgers. Again, highly disappointing for Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. Year 3, hot seat, probably not, but still needs to deliver. At number 13 in our Big Ten Power Rankings right here at the Voice of College Football, the Badgers. 2 consecutive bowl appearances for Rutgers football. Greg Schiano can coach. Rutgers going 7-6, taking advantage with a 3-6 Big Ten record of the worst schedule in the Big Ten, maybe outside of Indiana. They didn't have to face Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, no Oregon, no Iowa for Rutgers to face. Good news for 2025. Ethan Kalkumanis, the best Rutgers quarterback in a decade plus. First quarterback for the Scarlet Knights to throw for 2,000 yards since 2014. And 18 touchdown passes for Kalkumanis, the best since Gary Nova in 2014. At number 12 in our Big Ten Power Rankings for 2024, the Scarlet Knights. Finally, Nebraska gets off the schneid. They get to a bowl game. They win the bowl game. They notch their first winning season and bowl appearance since 2016. 7-6, but still 5 one-score losses and the growing pains of one Dylan Raiola. 13 touchdowns, 11 picks. At number 11 in our Big Ten Power Rankings right here at the Voice of College Football, GBR. Many times during the previous offseason, we called this at the Voice of College Football the biggest transition in the history of college football. Hyperbole, new head coach, new coaching staff, new quarterback, 21 new starters, and the creme de la creme, a new conference debut for Washington football. Well, not exactly a 12-0 conference championship season, national championship game, but still 6-7. Only lost by 1 point in the bowl game against Louisville. And, of course, they notched some impressive performances in the Big Ten. Marginal team, but still, Jed Fish knows what he's doing. Did a nice job at Arizona with what was a bad situation there. Also, keep in mind that Washington found its quarterback for 2025, and DeMont Williams replacing Will Rogers, 8 touchdowns and 1 pick. At number 10 in the Big Ten, Washington. I said it all off season leading into 2024, and it came to pass. Highest ceiling, lowest floor combination, USC football, 7-6. Wins over, yes, not vintage LSU, but still a good LSU team at 9-4. Texas A&M as well. Took Penn State to overtime. Blasted Wisconsin by 3 touchdowns. Took Notre Dame to a game in which they had a chance to tie the score with 2 minutes left in the game in the red zone. Lost to Maryland, a 1-8 football team with that one win against USC. Yes, not good enough for Lincoln Riley and USC, but maybe they've got something with Jaden Mayava. 11 touchdowns, 6 picks. And, of course, getting the starting job wrestled away from Miller Moss, who's off to Louisville. At number 9 in the Big Ten Power Rankings, right here at the Voice of College Football, SC. PJ Fleck is still chasing that elusive breakthrough season like Minnesota football experienced in 2019 at 11-2 and a top 10 finish. But all told, taking all things into consideration, a successful 2024 for Gopher football. They got off to a rough start at 2-3. They finished 8-5. Consider this. The only decisive loss for Minnesota was against Iowa. Otherwise, they were down to the final play against Michigan, North Carolina, just about everyone on the schedule. They won their rivalry game to close out the regular season against Wisconsin. They beat Illinois, a good football team. And also consider that Minnesota won a bowl game again under PJ Fleck. He's 6-0 in bowl games. At number 8 in the Big Ten, 8-5 season, row the boat. There's no way to get around it. 2024 was a missed opportunity for Iowa football. A soft Big Ten schedule set up for a possible run to the college football playoff, but Iowa finished woefully short of that. Lost to an SEC team, Missouri, in a bowl game to finish at 8-5. Lost to Michigan State and UCLA, 2 5-win football teams. Brendan Sullivan took over at quarterback after Cade McNamara went down, and Sullivan kept the job. And with offensive coordinator Tim Lester coming in from the MAC, he significantly improved the offense with Caleb Williams running wild as one of the best backs in the nation. The offense rose from one of the 5 worst in college football to number 80 in yards per play. That doesn't sound impressive, but consider that's about 55 spots to last. But the defense regressed under Phil Parker. Still a solid, strong unit, but considering all the returning starters and the All-America, all Big Ten types on that side of the football, the defense regressed to 20th ranked in the country. At, again, 8-5, a disappointment for the Hawkeyes at number 7 in our Big Ten Power Rankings. This turned out to be one of the worst showings from a defending national champion in recent years. Michigan going from undefeated to a 5-loss team. However, despite all the struggles and all the problems and the quarterback issues, one of the worst situations in a quarterback room in college football, it sure was a satisfying finish for the Maize and Blue, knocking off eventual national champion and rival Ohio State, and of course knocking off another blue blood in Alabama. Sharon Moore moves into 2025 with a quarterback decision to make. Davis Warren's back, and of course they picked up the big 5-star in Bryce Underwood. They got Mikey Keene coming in from Fresno State at number 6 in the Big Ten. Michigan. I said Jonathan Smith. I said Greg Schiano. Those guys can coach. Put Brett Bielema in that category as well. A lot of challenges at Illinois, especially now that there's not that comfort of a Big Ten Western Division schedule. But Bielema is establishing a program that's not going to go out and win 9 or 10 games every year. But if he gets it rolling, if the ball bounces his way, if he gets an upper class situation in regards to the roster, they can put together what they did in 2022. And then after 5-7 in 2023, they did it again this year. 10-3 for Illinois in a near top 10 finish. Impressive for the Illini, considering they had 5 one-score wins, including the bowl game, which was a highly entertaining, tough, hard-fought game, emotional game against South Carolina, 21-17. A solid effort at Penn State. Maybe this team was overshadowed by the Indiana fanfare and the Cinderella story with Curt Cignetti. But, man, give it up for Brett Bielema and his 10-3 Illini, number 5 in our Big Ten rankings. There are differences between being an excellent coordinator, Tom Allen, going to Penn State and now Clemson, and running a major football operation as Curt Cignetti did at James Madison and then has proven at Indiana. Hoosiers finish 11-2. What a year for Indiana football. Its best since going to the Rose Bowl in 1967. Was it fraudulent? Well, of course, it wasn't Indiana's fault that they played possibly the worst schedule in the Big Ten. No, Oregon, Iowa, USC, Penn State, none of those teams did Indiana have to face. But the teams they faced, they dominated or at least controlled those wins. Their best win of the season, a tough one against Michigan. They did have 2 opportunities to step it up against big-time competition. The 2 teams that played in the national championship game, they got rolled by Ohio State in what was a closer game at halftime by 23 points. And, of course, they did not come anywhere close despite the final score against Notre Dame. Number 4 in our Big Ten power rankings, Curt Cignetti and his Hoosiers. Was this a different Penn State football performance than past seasons that kept going 10-2 in the regular season, losing to Ohio State? Usually, was this a different Penn State football season than years past? Those 10-2 teams that would constantly lose to Ohio State, usually lose to Michigan, get to a major bowl game, usually win, but kind of a hollow 11-2 finish. Well, the pros and cons look like this. During the regular season, they went 11-1 for the first time. But on the other side, the con is that they didn't have to play another elite. They lost to Ohio State in the regular season. Then when they faced Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, they lost that second game. Well, the pro is that they made it to the Big Ten championship game for the first time since 2016. The con, well, they backed into the Big Ten championship game because Ohio State lost to Michigan. They made the playoff for the first time. Well, they would not have made the playoff in a 14 playoff. They made the playoff because they expanded the playoff. They won playoff games, though, against SMU and Boise State. But those were 2 teams that probably should not have been in the playoff in regards to being elite teams. So once Penn State got the shot at an elite team in that game against Notre Dame, they played well. Pro should have won the game, probably. The con, they lost it. So Penn State still on the border of elite status, but an excellent season for James Franklin. Drew Allers coming back in 2025. At number 3 in our Big Ten Power Rankings right here at the Voice of College Football. Please like and subscribe. We are Check out all the power rankings right here at the Voice of College Football as we have gone through the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC. And in all those instances outside of the Arizona State #1 position in the Big 12, there's been a decision to make. You can go the route of Big 10 champion, or you can go the route of postseason success. Let's look at it this way. Had Ohio State not completed the run as the national champion, had they not just completely obliterated, if we went through all the games that were played in college football in 2024, how many of those games was one team up on the other 34-0 in the second quarter? Probably 3%. That's how bad Ohio State blasted Oregon. Oregon won the regular season matchup. To their credit, they came into the league from the Pac-12. They dominated. They went 9-0, 10-0, including the Big Ten championship game win against a good Penn State team, one of the top 5 teams in the nation. Yes, Oregon had a tremendous season, excellent season, but they beat Ohio State by 1 point in a game that the Buckeyes could have won if Will Howard would have slid earlier, or if Jeremiah Smith would not have been called for a push off or. So toss up there. And then again, the Buckeyes obliterate them. Ohio State's the #1 team in the nation, so they got to be the #1 team in the Big Ten. Ohio State #1, national champs, went through the biggest gauntlet we've ever seen in the history of college football, defeating #2, #3, #4, #5, and then 2 other top 10 teams. 6 of the top 10 teams in the nation. Ridiculous what the Buckeyes did. And they beat those 6 top 10 teams by an average of 17 points per game. Ohio State, the clear #1, Oregon #2. Let's go down the rest of the Big Ten power rankings right here at the Voice of College Football. Penn State 3, Indiana 4, Illinois 5. #6, Michigan. #7, Iowa. Minnesota's at 8. USC at 9. Washington 10. Nebraska 11. #12's Rutgers, 13, Wisconsin, UCLA and Deshaun Foster at 14, Michigan State, Jonathan Smith at 15. #16, the Cats of Northwestern, 17, the Terps of Maryland. #18, it's not even close. By far the worst team in the conference and the nation in the Power 5. Boiler up. Appreciate the comments down below. Please like the video. And again, we are going to be ranking and rating everything in sight. Portal rankings, conference rankings are coming up. Big Ten fans, I know that you think your conference is #1, and you might be right, but we will size it up the logical, rational way, not just throwing darts. Yeah, the Big Ten's #1. Ohio State won the national championship. Penn State made it really far. No, we're going to go through all the games, and we will size it up. Keep it locked in right here at the Voice of College Football.